Okay guys, in this video I've been asked by a colleague from my day job who's a music teacher to provide my responses to some topics including reliability, time management, self-discipline. So I'm going to go through each one of these topics and just give my thoughts on each one, some experiences and some advice and tips that I think can help be of a benefit. And I'm going to make a video of it and post it, just in case there's something in there to help somebody else. And this is information I've gleaned from various YouTube videos and different sources, so you can collate it together. If it can be a benefit and if it can help someone, then I'm happy to do that. So what I'm going to do is go through each one at a time and try and provide some links between the different topics to kind of show how they all link together, how they can affect each other, and how by getting all these down, getting in some good practice, that they can make life as a musician, an engineer, any kind of job in the music industry productive and successful. So I'm going to start with reliability. So reliability, this covers anything from making sure you have practiced for your practice sessions, you've put the time in to make sure that your technique on your instruments down, whatever it may be, the songs, your parts, other people's parts, if you're a studio owner, you make sure your equipment's working, it's reliable. That goes for musicians as well. It can be anything from practicing to good practice at rehearsals, good studio practice. And what I mean by that is that when you're in the studio, you're focused only on the job at hand. You're paying for that service. You want to get your money's worth. So you need to reliably turn up on time, turn up to a gig on time, make sure that, you're there and, you've not gone out and, if you're of an age, had one too many beverages. You need to make sure that you are reliably producing a product that you have set out to produce. If you're contractually obliged to make a record, then you produce that record within the time frame that you've set out. And that reliability is one of the cornerstones of a good reputation. A good reputation is how you build a successful career. It does not matter how good you are, a musician or an engineer. If you are not reliable, people will not want to work with you. So reliability, that is a key. All the other topics we're going to look at, you have to have reliable, good practice and time management. The next topic is time management. You need to make sure you turn up to a recording session, a gig. You need to make sure that if you're a band member, you turn up to your rehearsals in good time, consistently, and that you use that time productively. And that goes for practice time as well. Keep your practice and your rehearsals separate. Don't practice technique at a rehearsal. A band rehearsal is to rehearse the songs. Personal practice that's the time to practice technique. And you need to structure those practice sessions in a way that they can be the most productive. I like to spend 25 minutes practicing, have a little break, another 25, up to an hour, and then I'll have maybe a little bit of a longer break. Not only does it give you your hands, if you're playing an instrument with your hands, or if you're a drummer, pretty much your entire body, time to come down and relax. You're not overexerting yourself, you're not becoming fatigued. You also give your ears time to relax, because they can easily become fatigued, especially at higher volumes, and you need to look after your ears. Not only that, it gives your brain time to process and digest the information that you're feeding it. That is kind of fostered, that good practice is fostered by self-discipline. Self-discipline applies to all aspects of making music. You need to discipline yourself to have a good practice routine, to employ good practice at rehearsals. You need to have self-discipline to make sure that your studio is working and your gear's in good order, and that if you have promise to get a project done in a certain amount of time, that you get that project done in that amount of time. You don't go over, you don't start eating into people's time, you don't start eating into people's money that they've paid you. You stick to what you have said you are going to do. You need to have the self-discipline to say, right, I am not going to go out and see my friends or whatever, or sit and watch TV. I am going to practice, or I'm going to work on a project that I'm getting paid for. I'm being commissioned to produce a record. I'm going to make sure that I get that record finished. And one of the effective techniques I employ is to make sure I get into good habits, and I get into good habits such as making sure I've got time to practice, making sure that I structure my time to be able to complete a project. I turn up on time. Obviously things happen, but make sure you are disciplined enough to have a plan B in place, and make sure that, if you've promised to commit to something, you have that discipline to commit your time and effort and money to that project. One of the kind of where I got that theory from was the compound effect. And you make small changes. It's a book called Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. You make small incremental changes, and they compound into having a large noticeable positive effect. And it's about breaking bad habits over time with small changes and introducing good habits. Like procrastination and being late are bad habits. Getting things done, getting the project finished and turning up on time, they are good habits, not only for yourself, but for working with other people. And that brings me on to my next topic, working with others. And a great book for this is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You need to have good interpersonal skills, be it in a band, as an engineer. You need to be able to communicate ideas effectively. You need to be able to listen to other people's ideas. You need to be able to deal with people in a compassionate and considered manner. Especially if you're in a studio, you're in an enclosed space for what could be a few days at a time. You need to make sure that you can communicate with people and work with people in a way that doesn't cause friction. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that now. You go read the book. That's about all I could say, really. Go read the book. It helped me, immeasurably in all different aspects of life. Not just in music, but my day job, just dealing with anyone, the public. And if you want, if you want to build that good relationship with your clients, and therefore build on your good reputation to encourage repeat custom, then you are going to have to make sure that you have good interpersonal skills. You can work with other people. You can work with people of a higher authority or lower authority, your peers, and you can work with anyone in sort of any capacity. And you need to be pragmatic with that as well. And good working relations are the key. And this would be one of the other cornerstones to building a successful career is, along with reliability, being able to communicate with people. You best musician in the world, best live engineer, best studio engineer. If you do not get on with people, people will not want to work with you. They will not want to give you their money for your services. Be it a session musician, whatever. You turn up to a gig and you're a nightmare, you won't get invited back. And you could jeopardize some quite lucrative opportunities to perform. And that is a real important one. And it comes with practice. You put the practice in dealing with people in a like I say, a considered manner and a compassionate manner, and you will see the rewards. So yeah, that's kind of like the the interpersonal things of discipline and time management, and how you go about conducting yourself. For now, but we'll move on to correct and safe use of equipment. Because if you damage your ears or your equipment and you lose the ability to perform on here, it doesn't really matter how well you get on with people. You need to look after your ears. So that's monitoring an appropriate volume. You got gigs, you wear ear defenders, not the over ear ones, the kind of little squidgy ones you stick in your ears. You can get ones molded to your ears. Look after your ears. It's not a nice experience. I can imagine losing your hearing, and I can imagine the psychological effects of, if you embarking upon a career in music and you lose your ability to hear, that's a big psychological effect that can really be detrimental, and it goes beyond just physically being unable to hear. So you really need to look after your ears. You're working on music all day for 12 hours. You need to give yourself rest breaks. Give your ears time to come back down, and your ears can get fatigued, and that not only can that be quite uncomfortable, you can lose the ability to really hear exactly what you're working on, especially if you're mixing a record. You fatigue your ears. You can't hear some of the, you can't make those judgment calls that you need to make to be able to make the right decisions. You might end up, if you're listening to something that's got quite a lot of high frequencies in at a loud volume, you will make judgments to the detriment of the record. Not only that, you listening too loud, you tend to think it sounds better. The loudness is perceived as better psychoacoustic phenomenon. So listen at a lower volume, look after your ears. And not only your ears, you need to look after your back. Musical equipment is damn heavy. You're lugging that about. You need to have a good system in place and be disciplined within yourself to move that gear around sensibly. You knacker your back. I've done it. It's boring being off for 6 weeks, but the excruciating pain you're in is the most severe pain I have personally ever felt for 6 weeks at a time. That can really put you in a bad mood. And you have to put your projects on hold. You can't keep going. You can't stand up. Even sitting down can be painful. These are some of the risks you run by moving equipment around, in an unsafe manner. Not only that, you could damage the equipment. You spill a drink on your equipment and an amp, that could be £1,000 worth of amplifier down the drain. If it preamp breaks, I use this preamp. This is my pretty much my favorite preamp for recording anything. I've got my DAV over here, which is a beautiful preamp, but I like to use my Rooster. If that goes, that's 2 channels of really nice preamplification and EQ down the drain. I use it for mixing as well, and so you lose you kind of lose that ability to apply its sound, and it kind of messes up your way of working if you're taking out something that's important to your mixing chain. Same with computers. Make sure it's in good working order. I don't know if you can see, but I've got a few hard drives knocking around there for storage and backups, and also to help my computer run more effectively, more efficiently. Look after your gear. Trip hazards. You got cables running around all over the place in the studio or on stage. I've seen people stack it, tripping over things. I mean, it's funny, but someone stands up with blood pouring down their face and a guitar that's now in 2 pieces. It's not good for them. It's not good for the performance, and it's certainly not good for your reputation. So look after your equipment, make sure it works, make sure you use it safely and sensibly, and make sure that when you're moving it around or you're moving around it, you don't damage yourself or your gear. It's expensive. It can ruin a gig. Can ruin a studio session. You need to make sure you are responsible when you're using it. So up next, resources required for a performance project. Now I'm going to consider a performance project to be anything where you are playing your instrument, from a practice session, rehearsal, gig, studio session. The same logic applies to all 4. You need to have a plan A and a plan B. Your plan A is everything you need to safely perform and effectively perform. So your instrument needs to be in good order. If you're using pedals, you need to have your pedals. You need to have your amp, your voice if you're a singer as well, or you need to make sure your voice is in good working order. If you're a DJ, you need to make sure that you've got all your songs ready. You know exactly what mixer you're using, what CDJs you're using. If you're using a sampler, you need to make sure that you've got everything you need for that. So that's your plan A, everything you need to do that performance if nothing goes wrong. Plan B is everything you need in case something does go wrong. So spare amp, or spare ability to get to amplify your sound. A DI box going through the PA, and you monitor through a monitor as opposed to your amp. A recording session, you've got spare amp. You use a stringed instrument, you've got spare strings. If it's an active instrument, you've got spare batteries, spare power supply for your pedal board, spare cables. Cables are easily broken. Make sure you always carry a spare one. If you've got an extra instrument and you've got the ability to take that along to a session and, somewhere to easily get hold of it, take an extra instrument. Don't leave yourself kind of exposed to some of the many problems that can go wrong, many accidents. Might not be your fault, might not be anyone's fault. Make sure that you have the ability to react, and you've planned out, you've given yourself the time to make sure that you can reliably perform, and if something does go wrong, you can reliably put into action your plan B and carry on performing. So that's really, really important, and it could be anything. It's difficult to say, to list the equipment you need. It entirely depends on you as a performer. What equipment do you need to perform? If something goes wrong, what are the potential pitfalls that could occur? And what do you need to do as a responsible performer to make sure that if they do go wrong, you can react and you can carry on performing? Resources required for a performance project is plan A, anything you need to perform. Plan B, anything you need in case something goes wrong, so you can continue to perform. Okay, so we've looked at interpersonal skills, time management, being reliable, and some of the equipment you might need and how to use it sensibly. But in using all that, you need to be thinking about how to develop. So development is essentially getting better at what you do. Practicing. Yes, you need to practice, but how can you judge whether that practice is effective or not? So you need feedback from people, or you need a source of feedback that you can objectively judge your progress and practice and performances, or the songs you create against. You need that benchmark. You need that kind of that barometer to tell you whether you are practicing effectively, whether you are improving, or if you need to change something, and if you do, exactly what it is you need to change. So you have to be able to reflect on whether something is good or not. Now, the way I like to do it, I will film a performance or a practice. I will sit and watch it back. I will say, right, I like this or I like that. If I'm, put myself in the position of an audience member, does this work? Does it come across as being entertaining? Does it come across as shambolic? Whatever the result may be, can you watch that back and think, yes, I've done a good job, or no, I need to improve? And you have to be brutally honest with yourself. But you have to be honest. If it is good and you've done a good job, then you've done a good job. Fair enough. Continue doing what you're doing. If you find an area that needs improving, pick one area. What do you need to do to improve it? Is it your technique? Schedule in your practice sessions, more time on that particular technique. Is it stage presence? Schedule in time with your band to work on your stage presence. Whatever it may be. Listen to a mix in the car. Is it translating well across multiple playback systems? If it is, great, you've done a good job. If it isn't, well, what is it? Is it too much bass? Too little bass? Where might the problem be? Is it the room you're in? Is that the problem? You might have a way of working that introduces more bass than you need. Can you balance your mix properly? Whatever it may be, listen back yourself to your performance, or to your practice routine, or to a mix you've done. Does it work? Be honest. If it does, great. Like I say, continue doing what you're doing. Look for ways to improve on that, by all means. And if it isn't working, think, right, what is it that's wrong? What is it that you're expecting to hear or to see that is missing? And then work on that. Okay, so we've looked at, or I've talked about ways that you can self-evaluate. But that's not the only way you can reflect and evaluate a performance. You can get your peers to help, friends, other musicians, people, other engineers, friends and family. I tend to, if you take fellow musicians or engineers in one group and friends and family in another, they will kind of give you different opinions, from a different perspective. You know, you've got your professional, your professionals, their feedback, and your laypersons, their feedback. They will have a different perspective, and will likely give different reasons for why something maybe isn't translating as well as you'd like, or they will give different reasons for why they do like something. But it gives you a broader perspective. You know, get people to come to gigs, ask them, what did you like about that? Did you like it? What do you think I could improve on? If you've done a mix, send it off to someone else. You know, say, look, can you review this mix? There are people out on the internet who will do that for you. You know, professional studio owners who you can send a mix to, who will give you feedback. You know, sometimes it's paid, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, you know, they might not want to do that. But shop around, find someone that can do that for you. Give constructive feedback. Always aim for constructive feedback though. Don't go out and just post something on the internet, and if one silly idiot posts, you know, gives a comment and says it's, you know, they've just got nothing but bad, hurtful things to say, block them, ignore them. You don't want that in your life. You want constructive feedback, but ask for it. Be active in looking for that constructive feedback. You know, seek it out. It's a great way to improve. You know, how you come across as an individual, you know, can offer, you might, you know, there'll be things that you are not aware of that might be detrimental, or things that, you know, that are a positive aspect of the way that you are perceived by your peers and, you know, the general public, you know, your audience, members of your audience, that, you know, if you work on that, can be even more of a benefit. And that's something you should consider as well. Constructive feedback isn't necessarily picking apart what's bad about a mix, about a performance, about your technique on your instrument. It's about highlighting things that you can continue to work on that are working well, so you can structure your practices, your performances, your the way you mix a record around the things that you're already good at, and then, you know, schedule in practice time to work on the things that, you know, you think have been highlighted as areas for improvement. But try and be objective. You know, if you got every person you ask turns around and says, well, I don't like this, then chances are that your audience and your peers are probably right, you know, and at least consider that they might be, or that they are right, and then put something into place for you to, you know, to work on that, you know. And if it does turn around that they were all wrong, you know, coincidentally, then fair enough. But you've listened, you've got into that, you're disciplined enough to listen to what's been said, to take that as constructive advice. You know, lots of different, ask lots of different people, you ask a large sample of people. It's like doing any form of like market research, and that's the way you could look at it. Market research, you know, is this product good enough? Does it fulfill the needs and wants of your target audience? You know, is it a good product, essentially? And it might be quite a clinical, detached way of looking at it, but if you remove yourself from that real emotional connection, you can now look at things and not be precious about things. You know, you've been working on a technique and you desperately want to put that in a record, and the rest of the band and the engineer turn around and say it isn't working. You know, you have to accept that sometimes, all right, okay, fair enough, it isn't working, and move on. You know, not every idea you will have will be a brilliant idea. You will have some terrible ideas. I have many. But you have to listen to that feedback in order to weed out those terrible ideas, so that when you come, you know, to the next project, you think, right, okay, this didn't work last time. Is it appropriate? And you can form, the basis of that judgment, you know, by listening to what other people say. And, you know, if you really like something and someone says it's rubbish, then, you know, don't fly off the handle. You know, you're asking for their opinion. You know, you need to listen to it, and you need to respect that opinion and respect the fact that you don't know everything. You are learning. I don't care who you are, how good you are, there is always something else to learn. You know, responding to that feedback, you need to be thankful for the fact that people have taken time, to give you that feedback, and to make the effort to give you to give you their opinion, and be honest. And they are helping you make those crucial judgments. So be thankful, be appreciative. And that's how you need to respond to feedback, whether you agree with it or not. But always consider acting upon that. Try it out. Like I said, you don't know everything. I don't. Certainly, I'm far from it. But if someone gives me a piece of advice, I will at least try it out. If it's try a new technique, or try this bass line in a song, or maybe I'm making a song and there's a particular section in there that isn't working. Listen to that advice. Try the alternative. And even if it's just stripping it out and shoving the other rest of the song together, if that's what is best for the song, then that's what's best for the song. You can't really get away from that. Always think what's best for the song, what's best for the band, the group, you as an artist, your studio, but be open to new ideas. That's how you can learn as well. You are on a journey of gaining knowledge. Make sure you are always considerate of the fact that you could be learning something new, and somebody could highlight something that could be a real eye-opener for you. Somebody could point something out that you would never have missed, but you've been doing, or you would never have seen, but you've been doing wrong for years and years, and someone says, right, okay, try approaching this problem or this process from this perspective. And all of a sudden you've learned something new, and that's a valuable resource to have and to take advantage of. Okay, so now we are moving on to the very last point, and how to stay focused on a project, especially if the end goal is not in the near future. So this comes back to the compound effect. Make small changes, and in making small changes, take a big goal, move it in, chunk it up into separate elements, and approach each section in a timely manner, but be disciplined to do so, and reliably approach each little chunk consistently. Reliably finish each section before you move on to the next one. And this is kind of the culmination of everything I've said up to now. Make sure your gear is in good working order so you can get through the project. If you've got an amp or bass that breaks halfway through, you use a different bass, it's going to sound different. You're going to play slightly differently. The strings might be in different condition. Your preamp breaks and it's the one you're recording all your vocals on. You're going to have a different vocal sound. They do sound different, and even if your audience can't tell, and it will make you react in a different way. It will make you produce that music in a different manner. So make sure your gear's working. Make sure you don't injure yourself. Halfway through a project or before a project, chunk it up. Make sure you use your time effectively. Make sure you practice so that when you go into a project, you know that you can do everything you need to do right from beginning to end. You're disciplined enough to have practiced before you embark upon this project, and you've managed your time so that it's achievable. You're not trying to climb that big mountain all at once. You've got separate base camps after you've done each section, so you can give yourself a rest. You can kind of come down. You're not going to get bored of the project. You're not going to lose focus. You can still approach each section as its own little mini project, and once you've completed it, you then think, right, brilliant, I've done that, I've achieved something, and that's a good feeling to have. You are making progress. How do you know you're making progress? Well, keep a tracker. I've used just a little table on a Word document, and I color code everything. So, for example, I will have project name at the top, and I will have each individual section. For example, I might have for videos for YouTube, I've got the title of the video, I've got whether I've filmed it, recorded it, whether I've got the audio, whether I've edited it, if I've posted it or not, so I know when it's completed, any other comments that I might think are relevant. And if I've not done anything, it's a red box. If I have completed it, it's a green box, and I use a yellow or an orange box if I'm halfway through. So I can just open that up, see where I am within that particular project, that particular video, and then I know exactly what I'm working on. I know that, for example, today I will film this video, tomorrow I will begin editing it. So right at the particular moment, my tracker looks like I've not filmed it, I've not got the audio sorted, I've not edited it, and I've not posted it. They're all red boxes. After I finish filming, I can turn the film box green, and I know tomorrow I can forget about it for a little while, come back to it tomorrow, open up my tracker, bam, I know exactly what I'm doing. I can focus on editing. Then I can get my project into my editing software and I can begin to edit, can begin to work on it. I don't have to worry about filming it. I've done it. It says so on the tracker. But you need to be disciplined to fill it in. It's like anything. If you do not have that discipline to keep that tracker up to date, keep it, keep it current and keep it active, then it means nothing. You have to be reliable and manage your time. And a project can be anything. It might be a gig, or it might be a tour, or you might be practicing to record an album, for example. So your tracker might look like, okay, have I practiced song A, B, C, D, or however many songs you've got? Do I know my parts? Have we practiced as a band? Have we recorded a demo? If you're a studio owner and you're recording a session, your tracker might look like track 1, drums, bass, guitars, vocals, and you might have a date on there as well. So all the drums will be recorded on such and such date, bass on the day after maybe, guitars on the 2 days, whatever it might be, so exactly at what date you are supposed to be doing each thing, so you can work towards that, and you can manage your time around achieving that goal, the goal being you record that album. So because there's a lot of information and a lot of people involved, it pays massive dividends to make sure that you have a tracker. And if you're in a band, you're working with other people, you, for example, might have a WhatsApp group, or you can all access a calendar on your phone, and that you communicate with each other exactly what's expected of each person within that project, when they're expected to do it, what equipment they need to be able to do it, what they need to have done in preparation, what they're doing during the project and after the project. Everybody needs to have that same clear goal. They need to work towards the same plan, the same structure, and then you need to be able to communicate with each other, and you need to be able to make sure that you can get through that project in a timely manner, with good relations at the end, or better relations, for example, maybe, and all the other points that I've discussed do, it's not like the compound effect in effect. You've got lots of little things to do, and the effect is, if you get them all right, the completion of the project. And staying focused on the project is, you encourage each other. If you're part of a group, achieving those small steps means that you will feel good about that project. You'll feel as though you are making progress. If you've got a tracker, you can see the progress you are making. And if you're disciplined enough to hit those targets when you've set them, you can, you're naturally more inclined to think, yes, this project is going to be a success. If you feel as though it's going to be a success, and you're confident in your ability and your teammates' ability to help you get to that goal, then you will stay more focused. It will become easier to be focused. And if you're staying safe and healthy, you are in good fit condition to get through that. And you damage your back, everybody's focus goes. It doesn't matter how focused your other, somebody else's, if you've got a critical member of the team that's out because they've damaged themselves, then that damages everybody's prospect of getting that getting that project, seeing it through to completion. So yeah, staying focused, it's kind of a team effort. You give yourself a little reward as well. It doesn't have to be anything big, but saying you've got, I don't know, if you want a new piece of equipment, you could say, right, I am gonna buy that piece of equipment after I've completed successfully this project, or I'm gonna have a day off, or I'm gonna go, all the things that I sacrificed to get this project done, I'm gonna do after, if I complete it. If I don't, I'm gonna go back and make sure I do complete it. So you've got something to work towards, that a little bit extra than the completion of the project. Because you're working on a project, it can seem like work, it can seem really laborious, and you're making sacrifices, and it can get you down a bit. But if you've got that extra incentive, they can help you stay focused. You need to, or maybe write down the benefits of completing that project. You get an album, you can sell it, you can use it as advertising. You've got something to remember your effort and your hard work by, and you can give it to people, sell it to people, they enjoy it. Those are the rewards, that good feeling of making something that enriches someone's life, makes their day better. Write them down, and every time you're feeling a little bit, oh, I'm sick of this project, I can't be bothered anymore, look at it, read the list out, remind yourself why you're doing it, remind yourself of all the good things that come from completing the project, all the benefits, and remind yourself, if you've all the things you've sacrificed to get it done. That all these little tricks can help you stay focused. And you do have to trick your mind a little bit, and you might seem cheating a little bit, but you do what you need to do to foster those good relations, to get that project completed, to grow as a musician, to build your good reputation, and in essence, foster that, the ability to have a successful career, whatever your goal is, whatever your career aspirations may be. These are the things that you have to build on, and they are little blocks that you can add together, that you can then build your successful career on. And that's the way it works. But it is, they all tie into each other. You need your equipment working, you need to be disciplined to make sure it's in good nick, and you're practicing, you need to make sure you turn up on time, you don't damage your reputation. People can trust that you can get the job done, so they come to you. All these things going hand to hand. So that is it. I've covered all the points. I could talk for hours and hours and hours, but I know people have things to do. And if you are watching this video, thank you for watching the video. If there is anything in there that's useful, I hope that it can help you in whatever career you choose. And thank you for listening to me waffle on for a little bit. So my next video, I think I'm not sure what my next video is going to be. I've got quite a few options. I need to consult my tracker and be disciplined in setting those achievable goals. So I will call that the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Cheers.